How many of the 10 best-selling deer attractant brands on the shelf are charging you $20 for a bag of salt with a picture of a buck on the front? I bought all 10. I flipped every bag over. I read every guaranteed analysis line by line. And then I ran trail cameras over 6 of them on 3 properties across 2 states to see whether the ones with the best labels actually produced the best deer response. 8 of the 10 brands failed the label test before I ever opened a bag. The guaranteed analysis, which is the small print on the back that tells you what is actually in the product, revealed that 8 out of 10 of the most popular deer mineral products on the market are between 45 and 96% salt. Salt with flavoring, salt with coloring, salt with a picture of a 200-inch buck on the front that has nothing to do with what is inside the bag. The 2 that passed contain the minerals that actually matter for antler growth, calcium and phosphorus, at concentrations that a deer's body can use. And the cost difference between the ones that work and a homemade version that works better is insulting enough that I almost did not make this video because I was embarrassed about how much money I spent on salt over the past 15 years. A buddy who manages a 200-acre lease in southern Iowa looked at my spreadsheet of guaranteed analysis data from all 10 brands and said, "You just described the last decade of my mineral budget in one page." He had been running commercial mineral blocks on that property since 2011 and never once read the guaranteed analysis on the back. He trusted the picture on the front. Most of us did. I will walk you through exactly what to look for on any mineral label so you never buy salt in a camo bag again, which 2 brands actually deliver funnel mineral, and why the antler chemistry makes most of these products irrelevant to the biological process they claim to support. Stay until the end, because I will give you a 3-ingredient homemade mineral recipe that costs roughly $3 per site and contains higher concentrations of every mineral that matters than 8 of the 10 commercial products I tested. The science you need to understand first is what an antler is actually made of. A whitetail antler in velvet is roughly 80% protein and water by weight. The remaining 20% is mineral. Once the velvet sheds and the antler hardens, the mineral content increases to roughly 55 to 60% of dry weight. The dominant mineral compound in hardened antler is hydroxyapatite, which is a crystalline form of calcium phosphate with the chemical formula Ca10PO462. Hydroxyapatite is the same compound that makes up human bone and tooth enamel. It is roughly 39% calcium and 18% phosphorus by molecular weight. That means the 2 minerals responsible for antler density and hardness are calcium and phosphorus in a ratio of roughly 2 to 1, not sodium, not potassium, not the mystery roughage products listed on the back of a $15 bag of flavored salt. Calcium and phosphorus. A buck's body sources these minerals from 2 places. First, his own skeleton. Research from the Mississippi State University Deer Lab documented that bucks lose roughly 20 to 30% of their skeletal mineral density during peak antler growth in June and July, as their bodies redirect calcium and phosphorus from ribs and flat bones into the growing antler. Their ribs measurably thin during summer. The buck is dissolving his own bones to build antlers. Second, dietary intake. A buck replenishes his skeletal reserves by consuming calcium and phosphorus from browse, soil, water, and mineral supplements throughout the year. If the supplement you are putting out is 77% salt and 0% calcium, the buck is licking it because salt tastes good, but its antlers are getting exactly nothing from the experience. The label makes the sale. The guaranteed analysis tells the truth. And the truth on 8 out of 10 bags I examined would embarrass the marketing department if anyone actually read it. The first 6 brands I tested all failed on the same metric. Salt content above 40% with calcium below 5%. I am not going to name all 10 in order because this is not a countdown. I am going to group them by what the guaranteed analysis revealed and let you draw your own conclusions about whether the $20 price tag matches the value inside. One brand I pulled off the shelf at a farm supply store in Pike County, Illinois, the kind of county where every gas station sells deer mineral next to the beef jerky, listed its guaranteed analysis as 58% salt with no calcium, no phosphorus, and no magnesium on the label. The only other ingredients were artificial coloring and flavor. It was orange. It smelled like oranges. It was $12 for 6 pounds. That is $2 per pound for orange-flavored salt. I showed this label to a livestock nutritionist at the county extension office in Pike County and asked him what he thought. He read the guaranteed analysis, flipped the bag back over, looked at the buck on the front, and said if I sold cattle feed with this analysis, I would lose my customers in a week. He said the salt content was appropriate for a salt lick, which is fine, but the labeling implied mineral supplementation that the product could not deliver. His exact words were, "This is a salt lick with a marketing budget. A 50-pound bag of plain livestock salt at the same store costs $6. That is 12 cents per pound. You are paying a 1,600% markup for orange food coloring and a picture of a buck on the bag." A second brand, sold at a major outdoor retailer for $15, listed 77% salt as its minimum content. The label said it was formulated for pregnancy, birth, new antler growth, fawn growth, and lactation. Every one of those biological processes requires calcium and phosphorus. The bag contained neither. It was 77% salt with unspecified minor ingredients. The label claimed to support antler growth using a product that contains 0% of the two minerals that make up 57% of a hardened antler. A biologist at Mississippi State would read that label and wince. Quick pause here. Everything I just walked through, and 100 more tricks like it, is sitting inside the Buck Hunter's Bible, 2026 edition, 280 pages of the stuff that actually puts deer on the ground. And right now, if you grab it, I am throwing in the 30-day opening day roadmap, completely free. That is a 60-page day-by-day preseason plan that walks you from the first scout to opening morning. So you start this season ahead of every other hunter in the woods. Link in the description, QR code on screen. This is the season you stop guessing. A third brand advertised as a premium mineral site igniter contains 75% salt, with the remaining 25% listed as sodium bicarbonate and roughage products. I do not know what roughage products means in the context of a deer mineral supplement, and I could not find a definition anywhere on the packaging or the manufacturer's website. Sodium bicarbonate is baking soda. The product was baking soda and salt with a picture of a whitetail on the front. $14 for 2 kilograms, roughly 4.4 pounds, about the weight of a half gallon of milk. A box of baking soda cost $1 at the grocery store. A fourth brand that I had used for 2 seasons myself and thought was working was a 94% salt block, marketed as a mineral block. Yes, salt is technically a mineral, and technically water is a chemical. But if someone sells you a chemical cleaning agent and it is 94% water, you would want your money back. The block lasted all season, which I took as a sign of quality. It lasted all season because it was a rock of salt. Salt rocks do not dissolve as fast as processed mineral blocks because the crystal structure is denser. Durability is not efficacy. I was impressed by a salt rock for not dissolving. That is the bar I was setting for my mineral program. A fifth and sixth brand both contain molasses as a primary ingredient, which the reference video from a Canadian hunter I found online correctly identified as a bear and raccoon magnet. I tested one of these on a property in the SC Lowcountry coastal plain habitat with sandy soil and dense palmetto understory, and within 72 hours the trail camera on the Tacticam cellular showed 14 raccoon visits and 0 deer visits. By day 7 the product was completely consumed by raccoons. I pulled the camera and never used a molasses-based product again. Same experience the Canadian hunter described. Molasses is not a deer product, it is a raccoon product with a deer on the label. A 7th and 8th brand both fell in the 45 to 60% salt range with minimal calcium and phosphorus and heavy reliance on flavoring agents to drive initial interest. One smelled like apples, the other smelled like acorns. Both pulled deer initially based on curiosity, same way a deer will is investigating novel scent in its environment. But the camera activity dropped by roughly 60% after the first week as the deer investigated, found salt, and moved on. Curiosity is not attraction. A new smell gets a visit. A nutritional signal gets a habit. That distinction is the single most important sentence in this entire video. You have probably experienced it yourself. You put out a new product, the cameras show activity for a week, and then the visits drop off a cliff. You blame the product running out or the deer losing interest. What actually happened is the deer investigated a novel scent, found salt, cataloged the site as a sodium source, and deprioritized it because sodium was not their primary nutritional need at that time of year. During spring greenup, when potassium levels spike in new browse and the deer crave sodium to rebalance their electrolytes, those same salt-heavy sites will pull visits. But from June through October, when the demand is for calcium and phosphorus for antler growth and skeletal replenishment, a salt site is a low-priority stop. A calcium-phosphorus site is a daily destination. Same deer, different demand, different response. The product did not fail. It was answering a question the deer were not asking. That is the difference between the 8 products that failed and the 2 that passed. The two brands that passed my label test both contained calcium above 10% and phosphorus above 6% with salt content below 40%. The first had a guaranteed analysis of 10% calcium, 8% phosphorus, 1% magnesium, and 35% salt with an apple flavoring. It cost roughly $20 for 5 pounds at a major outdoor retailer. Not cheap, but the mineral profile matches what antler biology demands. The 2-to-1 calcium to phosphorus ratio mirrors the hydroxyapatite composition of antler bone. The magnesium supports the enzymatic reactions that transport calcium from the bloodstream into the antler growth plate. This product is not salt pretending to be mineral. It is mineral with enough salt to make the deer want to lick it. The second brand that passed contained roughly 16% calcium and 8% phosphorus, with a proprietary blend of chelated minerals, which means the minerals are bonded to amino acids that increase absorption efficiency in the deer's digestive system. This is the same chelation technology used in premium livestock mineral supplements. The salt content was below 30%. It cost roughly $25 for a 4-pound bag, which makes it the most expensive per-pound product on the shelf. But the mineral density per dollar is the highest of any product I tested. You are paying for functional mineral, not flavored sodium. I ran Tacticam cellular cameras over both of these products alongside 2 of the high-salt products on a lease in southern Iowa for 6 weeks during May and June, which is peak antler growth and the period of highest mineral demand. The high-calcium products averaged 29 and 34 visits per camera cycle. The high-salt products averaged 11 and 14 visits per cycle. Same property, same deer herd, same 6-week window, same camera model. The deer chose the functional mineral over the salt by a margin of roughly 2.5 to 1. I want to be careful with that data because 6 weeks on one property is not proof. It is anecdotal data from one guy with cameras, but the margin was consistent across all 3 cycles I ran, and it matches what I have seen on other properties over 3 seasons of testing. Deer prefer functional mineral to pure salt when both are available. I watched one buck on camera in southern Iowa visit the high calcium site 6 times in a 2-week period and never once visit the salt block 40 yards away, roughly the distance across a 2-car garage and driveway. Same ridge, same timber. He walked past the salt to get to the calcium. His body was telling him what it needed, and the calcium site was providing it. The salt block was visible from the calcium site. He could see it. He ignored it. That single camera sequence changed how I think about every mineral product I have ever used. They will lick salt when nothing else is offered. But given a choice, they go to the calcium and phosphorus source because their bodies are demanding those minerals for skeletal replenishment and antler growth. Look, I am going to be straight with you. Everything I am walking through in this video is just a small piece of what is inside the Buck Hunter's Bible, 2026 edition, 280 pages, 101 field-tested tricks, and right now you also get the 30-day opening day roadmap free with it, a 60-page day-by-day plan that gets you ready before the season even starts. I do not know how long that bonus stays in the deal, but if you have been watching these videos and thinking this could be my season, that is the move. Link in the description below, QR code on screen. Make this the year. The cost math across a decade of buying these products is what keeps me awake at night. I ran commercial mineral blocks on 3 properties for 15 years, 3 to 4 blocks per property per season at an average of $22 per block. Call it $264 per year. Over 15 years, that is $3,960 on mineral products. Based on what I now know about the guaranteed analysis of the brands I was using, roughly $3,200 of that was spent on salt. My wife asked me once how much I spend on deer mineral each year, and I told her it was a reasonable amount. Reasonable is a word that means different things to different people. It did not mean $264 a year to her. It did not mean $264 a year to me either once I read the labels. The 3-ingredient homemade recipe I promised at the beginning uses decalcium phosphate, livestock salt, and trace mineral mix. Same principle from the DiCal video on this channel. 2 pounds of decalcium phosphate from the feed store costs roughly $1. 1 pound of livestock salt costs about 12 cents. A 1/4 cup of livestock trace mineral mix, the kind with copper, zinc, manganese, and cobalt, costs roughly 50 cents. Total cost per site, roughly 162 cents for a mineral blend that contains 22% calcium, 18% phosphorus, and a complete trace mineral profile. Compare that to the $20 commercial bag at 10% calcium and 8% phosphorus. The homemade version has double the calcium concentration, more than double the phosphorus, and costs less than 1/10 of the price. My scent blocker jacket costs more than a full season of homemade mineral for every property I hunt. My Matthews V3X costs more than a lifetime supply. My Weatherby ammunition costs more per box than an entire year of functional mineral on 3 properties. The math has been available to anyone willing to walk past the hunting aisle and into the livestock aisle at the same feed store. The products are 30 feet apart. The price difference is 90%. The mineral content is identical or better. Nobody told you because nobody's selling a $20 bag of flavored salt benefits from you, knowing that the same minerals are available in a $1 bag of livestock supplement 30 feet away. A land manager I trade camera data with in Pike County runs 12 mineral sites across 640 acres using nothing but decalcium phosphate, salt, and trace mineral. His annual cost for a 12-site program is roughly $20 total. The average commercial mineral program for the same number of sites would cost $960 per year. His Archery Talk post documenting 3 years of before and after camera data showed that the homemade mix outperformed the commercial blocks he had been using on 9 of the 12 sites. The 3 sites where the commercial blocks performed equal to the homemade mix were all within 50 yards of a standing soybean field, which was providing dietary calcium and phosphorus independently of the mineral site, making both supplements redundant. The lesson from that data is that mineral supplementation matters most on properties where the natural diet is mineral deficient. If the deer already have access to high calcium browse and mineral-rich soil, no supplement, commercial or homemade, is going to produce a dramatic camera response. But on the properties where the soil is acidic and the calcium is low, which covers the majority of whitetail habitat east of the Mississippi, the deer respond to functional mineral with a consistency that salt products cannot match. The next time you pick up a bag of deer mineral at the pro shop, flip it over. Read the guaranteed analysis. If the salt content is above 40% and the calcium is below 10%, put it back on the shelf. You are holding a bag of flavored salt that costs 1,600% more than the livestock salt 30 feet away in the same store. I walked through a major outdoor retailer with a calculator last March and priced the mineral aisle product by product. The average price per pound across all 10 brands I purchased was $4.12. The average calcium content per pound was 6.3%. Across the road at the farm supply store, decalcium phosphate costs roughly 22 cents per pound and contains 22% calcium. You are getting 3.5 times more calcium per pound for 1/18 of the price. My wife said I should stop doing math on hunting products because the numbers make me angry. She is not wrong. The deer on the front of the bag did not eat what is inside the bag. That deer was photographed on a managed property with protein feeders, food plots, and genetics that have nothing to do with the salt inside the bag it is printed on. The marketing department chose that photo because it sells product. The nutritionist who formulated the contents has probably never met the photographer who shot the cover image. Same pattern from the borax video, the dical video, the earth battery video. Package a common compound, add a picture of a 180 class buck, and sell it at a markup that would make a pharmaceutical company raise an eyebrow. The deer on the front of the bag ate the food plot, the natural browse, and the mineral-rich soil on whatever farm the photographer shot the image on. The bag is selling you a picture, not a product. And the 2 brands that passed my test will not be offended if you make the same mineral blend at home for 1/10 of the price. They are in the business of convenience, not chemistry. The chemistry is available to anyone willing to read a label and walk to the livestock aisle. That is the entire investigation. 10 brands, 8 failed, 2 passed. And a 162's homemade version beats them all. Check at your labels, count the calcium, skip the salt, and stop paying for pictures of bucks that have never eaten what is inside the bag.